Good morning, Devils fans. Devils have off today from practice, and so as promised, I dug into the numbers a bit for the team and wanted to go over some interesting things that kind of stuck out to me. So, going to start off the top here with the biggest hot button issue amongst the fan base, and that is going to be Timo Meyer. For those that know me, I'm a huge Timo fan, and I've given him a lot of leeway in both these videos and on the podcast in his play to start the season. But I really want to dig into what do the numbers say? Is my eye test betraying me? Are we being too hard on the guy? Yada, yada, yada. And lo and behold, no, we're pretty much nailing it. He is having a brutal start to the season. So for most of this video, I use Natural Stat Trick. For those of you that haven't checked it out, it's pretty straightforward. But for those of you that roll your eyes at advanced analytics, it's nothing too crazy going on here. At least the ones that I like to look at are fairly basic, and it just puts a different word on it that maybe throws you off. So like Corsi, generally speaking, it's really just shot attempts on your part of the ice that are heading towards the net versus how many shot attempts you have on their end. Basically, it's not just looking purely at shots for and shots against, but shot attempts. There's Fenwick with blocked or unblocked shots, and then putting that out of, are you putting more shots towards the net than your opponent, and what percentage does that break out to? The other one I really like to look at is high danger chances. Generally speaking, you probably know it in your mind's eye. There are certain spots on the ice that when a guy gets a puck and is shooting from there, generally speaking, between the dots, center of the ice, net front, stuff like that, you know there is probably a higher likelihood that that shot is to go in as compared to shooting from behind the net, unless you're Jack Hughes, or shooting out of a corner, or generally speaking from the blue line outside of a few D-men like Dougie with absolute bombs of shots. So I like to look at those more holistically. 3 games is not a very large sample size, mind you, but just to at least get an idea of if my eye test is tracking along with the analytics. I didn't go really too deep beyond that. There are a lot of other amazing tools out there in the stats community that I at least brushingly will take a look at and discuss depending on who it's coming from and what it is. But I wanted to keep it mostly basic on these videos. So with that disclaimer in place, Timo stats do not look great no matter who he's on the ice with. So Natural Stat Trick has a nice little thing where you can look at what does a full line look like on the ice together. What does that line, so in this case, Nico, Timo, Mercer to start. What does that line look like when Timo isn't on the ice? What do Nico and Mercer look like together? What do Nico and Timo look like when Mercer isn't there? So you can kind of isolate who is potentially dragging the line down or who isn't, who is carrying the play, etc., etc. So if you couldn't tell from my intro here on Timo, basically no matter who he's out on the ice with, he is getting caved in by the other team. Now he has had a few chances. Some of his best play has been without Mercer on the same line as him. But when you take him away from Nico and Mercer, Nico and Mercer have some of their best stats together without Timo. So pretty not great, to avoid using a curse word as I try to do in these videos. Not very great for Timo there. So makes sense that they are going to throw him with Jack. So I also checked out, hey, what limited ice time has he had with Jack Hughes in this year? It's not much, basically, at all, especially if you put the full line together with Mercer. It's just not a lot of ice. But in those minutes, they basically haven't done anything either. So considering how Jack has been playing, not the greatest thing you want to see from your highest paid forward. But I've said it before. Dano's brought it up now. Obviously, he's a big fan of the show, shouting out the stat I brought up, which was Timo's had slow starts to a lot of seasons. Last year, didn't only had 2 points in his first 9 games, both assists, didn't score his first goal till the 10th game. Still ended up potting 40 on the whole. And now that he's on a completely new team, new systems, I keep bringing this up. Got to give the guy some time to acclimate. He was the first guy on the ice yesterday for practice. He did some extra practicing afterwards, one-on-one with, it looked like, Lindy after all the other guys finished up. So we know he's taking this very seriously. We really should not be worried much about Timo at all, but the numbers do agree with your eye test. He has not played well at all. It is no surprise that he got benched. Ruff says it was for the penalties taken, which probably is the case generally when a guy like that is not playing his best hockey. You just want to let him play and figure it out. But when he's also taking penalties and putting you in those situations, you got to let him sit and No, hey, this is a very serious organization. We have very serious aspirations. That type of play is not going to fly here. You are not guaranteed ice on this team. We have other guys that are workhorses that if we need to bench you, we're going to. And that's when we played our best hockey of that entire game. I want to talk now real quickly about the team as a whole. Would it surprise you if I said Arizona was our worst game? Some of you probably not. Some of you probably so. On the whole, and I'm going to attribute this to Florida taking the 4-0 lead. And this is where I think sometimes people get too into the weeds on the advanced analytics. Florida, and there are some stats out there that actually account for this. Game score adjustment, basically, it's how does a team adjust their play when they're up 1 goal, up 2, 3, up 4 goals, and how do teams adjust their play when down 1, 2, 3, 4? So if that stuff interests you, definitely check it out, because when you factor that in with the stuff I'm talking about here, it really does give a better, more holistic view. So, yeah, again, by the numbers, Arizona was our worst game, but I'm going to say, Florida's got slightly skewed there in the third period when they were playing with the lead and kind of adjusting their game. But really, even though we had 2 goals against us, Florida's first period might have been one of our better ones. Again, 3-game sample size. We're not going to go too crazy here because it's not a lot of games. You got to give 10, sometimes up to 20 before you can do whole picture views. 10 to make adjustments, 20 to actually give, I think, legitimate opinions on things in this case. So on the whole, though, the team has actually played fairly well. Again, we've won one, we lost in a shootout, and then we lost by a single goal. So it hasn't been the worst play. Just expectations are so high, we expect better. To touch on a few of the other guys that have been struggling, like I said, Nico and Mercer have actually played fairly well when away from Timo. Still not to the standard we probably expect of them, but gives you at least some hope that there is something there based on the line. So if we look at the now should be the Foley Nico Brat line, I'm hoping that one really cooks together and that Jack can drag Timo and Mercer to some better play, and that'll throw it together. Besides that, in practice, McLeod did bump up to the third line, where if Holla is out with injury, as he still seems to have this nagging condition going on, and McLeod gets bumped up, I'm all for it. Palat, McLeod, Holtz cooked last game. So I think it'd be a fantastic third line. And then even if Holla does come back, if you want to toss him down in McLeod's spot on the fourth, I'm not against that either. As I think Mikey has really driven in the bottom six, and he deserves that bump up in the lineup. Holtz has also played fairly well, and I think Palat's been pretty good. He's had some really strong shifts, and then he's had some ghosting ones. So I do want to see a little bit more out of him. But, we'll probably say it all year. Regular season Palat is good enough. He's not $6 million good, but good enough. And then it's really, he's got to earn that paycheck in the playoffs. So he's got to be just good enough for that middle six role for him. We'll kind of see how it shakes out with Holla back. If lines change up at all, if he is in practice tomorrow, can discuss that. But probably won't get another video out before tomorrow's practice, given it doesn't start till 11. So to continue a bit more here on the team with the analytics, I looked a bit at the defense. Biggest shock to me was that Luke and Brendan Smith get the lion's share of defensive start. I would have thought it was Ball Marino, but no, Ball Marino actually take a huge bulk of the neutral zone, and then obviously Dougie Siegs take all the ozone starts. The top four there, all have actually really good stats on the whole. Nothing to really be too crazy about. They're not blowing guys out of the water necessarily, but they're not getting blown out of the water as well. And then, as we know, the Luke Smith pairing has not been very great, at least as far as a chances against, chances for, high danger chances point of view. I still think Miller should be in there. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Biggest reason probably is Smith's PK play. They probably just don't trust Miller there yet in that role, which is fine. But yeah, they got to figure it out. I would still shake up the units. I was looking at, now again, this is very, very limited minutes for the guys. I think it's only less than 4 minutes for all these pairs I'm about to bring up. But basically, when you shake up those D pairs, they all looked really good. The only one that didn't have basically any time together was, surprisingly, Luke and Marino. Everyone else, when Luke was with Siegenthaler, looked really good. When Siegenthaler was with Ball, it was really good. When Smith was with Dougie, it was good. When Smith was with Siegenthaler, it was good. When Smith was with Ball, it was really, really good. So, I'll just say this. Every single person Siegenthaler plays with has extraordinary numbers. Again, very limited sample size outside of the basically tried and true 3 pairs that we have been running. But I would not mind seeing them shake it up a bit. Luke and Dougie at the end there in the third, when they were just trying to put offense together, really bombed out in a good way, if that wasn't clear. They played really, really well. Lots of chances for, basically nothing against. I would not mind seeing them shake it up if we go down early in a game again, much earlier, not just in the third period. Because they've all looked really good outside of Luke Smith together. Really, every other combo that's been put together, no matter the ice time, has have better chances offensively than defensively. But yeah, no, Luke Smith getting the lion's share of defensive starts was quite surprising for me. Goalies have been pretty well. The worst showing was VTech there in that Florida game. Really, if you go by just shooting percentage of the other team, what your save percentage was, basically, if you take everything I've been talking about statistics-wise in this video and throw it together, you can kind of generate a number that says, were you kind of lucky or unlucky in this game? And that game was a bit unlucky for us, just based on previous stats that our guys will put up. You would expect a kind of a better showing there from VTech, but hey, not the absolute end of the world by any means. There wasn't really anyone else I wanted to touch on. Again, the bottom six has been fairly what you expect of a bottom six. They've been good, but not extraordinary. We do need them to start scoring a bit more, I think, but 3 games, don't got to go crazy. We know Nico needs to produce more. We know the Timo story. That's why I started off with him. But on the whole, the team's playing all right. It's not the insane numbers that we saw to start last year, but it is commendable. I believe just came out that if we were to keep playing exactly as we are now, we could and should still end up a top 6 team in the NHL, which is crazy, absolutely nuts. But yeah, that's really going to do it for this video. Maybe I'll dig into some more numbers on the more depth guys, just kind of see what I'm vibing with come tomorrow, because like I said, won't get this out before practice. So just kind of see what the community is talking about, see if there's anything I want to address, or maybe I'll do an early preview. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But that's going to do it for today's video, guys. I will see you tomorrow morning, as always, and forever. Let's go Devils.